So this is the end. For real this time. Hideo Kojima had wanted it to be the end for 7 years. Metal Gear Solid 2 was supposed to be the end, then Metal Gear Solid 3 was supposed to be the end. Well, Metal Gear Solid 2 would have been an ending that left everyone hanging on this.
What the hell?
Metal Gear Solid 3 would have ended on a fine note. It was a fantastic prequel, but fans demanded another game, and thus there's a certain sense of self-hatred running through this game. Pretty much every trailer was putting out one thing. Snake was dying and only had a few months left to live. Every surviving character was coming back, so all in all, this game was set up to be the true finale. Metal Gear Solid 4 was released in June 2008 for the PlayStation 3, almost exactly 10 years after the release of Metal Gear Solid. It has since sold over 6 million copies worldwide. Before the game begins, we're treated to various commercials. I suppose it's meant to be reflective of the time we live in, but I heard Kojima almost got fired for this. My personal favorite, though, has to be the David Hayter interview. The game proper opens with Snake infiltrating the Middle East. In his narration, he explains that wars become routine. It's a very somber tone. The global economy is essentially maintained with these proxy wars. 5 years have passed since the events of Metal Gear Solid 2, and Snake has been suffering from accelerated aging. Last we saw Liquid Ocelot, he ran off of Metal Gear Ray and hasn't been seen since. Campbell appears and tells Snake and Otacon that they found him in the Middle East. Snake has since been branded a war criminal because of his involvement in the Shadow Moses of Manhattan incident by the Patriots. Campbell essentially asked Snake to perform a hired hit on Liquid and terminated him before his plans could be fully realized. Snake agrees to one last mission. Snake and Otacon have also taken an Ogle's child named Sunny. Sunny is a one-note character, but it's expected as much because she's a child, but I'll go into her later. Following all this introduction, the game will properly begin. Act 1 mainly takes place in the Middle East. Snake has a new suit called the Octo Camo, which maintains the camouflage of MGS3 but without the need for accessing menus, so this is a definite improvement. Snake simply has to lie still for a few seconds, and his suit will automatically blend in with the environment. After holding up enemies, Snake can now do a search for more items and can knock them out by... oh my. A new item is the Metal Gear Mark II designed by Otacon. Using this, Snake can scout ahead and knock out guards. Snake also comes equipped with the Solid Eye this time around, which essentially serves as a radar for this game. The concept this time around is that Snake is in a war zone with neither side as his enemy. Thus, Snake is free to influence the battlefield to support either side, or simply ignore the conflict and use it as a distraction to achieve his mission. More often than not, you'll find yourself aiding the rebels since the PNCs turn out to be in your way more often than not. Snake can also now crotch walk, which is a nice in-between walking and crawling. Snake meets up with Drebin, a gun launderer. Drebin serves as the other new feature of the game, buying and maintaining guns. Instead of the usual weapon and equipment OSP, Snake can now buy his weapons through Drebin's shop. Drebin's a pretty flat character, honestly. The whole purpose of the monkey, Little Gray, was meant to give him some dimension. But regardless, honestly, Otacon probably could have filled the role that Drebin did. Although Drebin does give Snake some new nanomachines that does serve a purpose, as we'll see later on. Snake meets up with Meryl once again, proving once and for all that yes, the Meryl Lives ending is canon. Meryl is joined by her 3 teammates, Jonathan, Ed, who really don't have characters, and Johnny! Who is this guy? He's the guy she knocked out and took his clothes in MGS1. You can also hear him a couple times in MGS2, and you even met his grandfather in MGS3. And the one basic joke about him is that he's always on the toilet. Why he's back, I have no idea. I mean, it's tradition at this point, but he plays a much larger role this time around, so it's not quite as forgivable. Snake and Meryl's relationship didn't work out, obviously, and Snake's old age pretty much sinks this ship. We find out she's also estranged from her father, Roy Campbell, because he married another woman around her age. However, they are interrupted by the arrival of the Frogs, Liquid Ocelot's private troops who are entirely females. You're treated to your first boss battle of the game, and I must say, I don't particularly mind these shootouts as they offer something different. Compared to the previous games where you use the square button to shoot, Metal Gear Solid 4 is a button for aiming a gun and a button for firing a gun, so it's a bit more bearable than it would be in previous games. Once that is done, Snake makes his way out to the next area where we meet the boss unit of the game, the Beauty and the Beast Corps, 4 traumatized beauties who embrace their beast nature. For what it's worth, this scene really does sell them as intimidating. Following this, Snake will get his first encounter with Liquid Ocelot. By his side is Naomi Hunter, who after being imprisoned for the events of MGS1 was busted out of prison by Liquid Ocelot. Liquid then activates something that causes much of the soldiers to begin freaking out, with only one not affected. Snake is unable to complete his mission and is taken to safety and thus ends Act 1. Snake wakes up on the Nomad and they receive a distress signal from Naomi to come rescue her. Snake makes his way to South America where he retreated to... Well, we see Vamp again and here the game continues to indulge in aiding the rebels over the PMCs. As he heads on his way, he receives a call and we get reintroduced to Rosemary, who will be serving as Snake's psych counselor. Snake's psych meter works very similar to the stamina meter from MGS3 in that the more it decreases, his performance will get worse. We also see why Meryl was so disgusted with Campbell since he married Rose, since apparently Ryan and Rose didn't work out. Snake continues to make his way when he gets a call from Ryan, who proceeds to give Snake some hints, creating an interesting role reversal to their time on the big shell. Eventually, Snake makes his way to Naomi. There, Snake learns that the accelerated aging is not due to the Fox-Die virus that still remains within him, it's how he was naturally designed and that he only has 6 months left to live. To make matters worse, the Fox-Die virus in Snake has mutated, so that in 3 months he'll essentially become the deadliest weapon of mass destruction. On top of that, he has a new strain of Fox-Die in him. I mean, damn, that's a lot to take in, and it really highlights just how screwed Snake is. Following this, Snake has his first encounter with a B&B Corp, Laughing Octopus. Each boss in this game takes something from the previous 3 games. Her emotions taken from the Joy, her tentacles come from Solidus, and her animal comes from Decoy Octopus. It's worth noting that the boss fight against her was originally going to be used for fighting Decoy Octopus in the original game, but due to technology limitations they had to omit it entirely. It's a clever boss fight, taking advantage of the environment you're in. After you win, you have to deal with her beauty form. You get reward for taking the non-lethal means of defeating them, and by that I mean it'll give you face camo. The fights aren't particularly interesting, since she'll just give you a hug, and you'll have to shake her off. But in this case you can have... Following each boss fight, your weapon will call you and give you their backstory, which I find very annoying and intrusive. I remember in MGS1 these were optional, but here you're basically forced to listen. Following that, Snake is forced to track Naomi using their footprints. It's an interesting way to mix up the gameplay, but then things go back to shooter territory. Snake must use the turret on Drebin's vehicle to gun down geckos and other soldiers coming at you. It's another rail shooter. There's really not much to say about it. Following that, Raiden shows up. Yeah, Raiden. That dork. Wonder what he's been up to lately.
Okay, Raiden got pretty badass.
After a pretty well choreographed fight with Vamp, Raiden is injured and Snake and Naomi take him on board. Before passing out, Raiden tells Snake to go meet Big Mama. We get some bonding time between Naomi and Sunny, who teaches Sunny how to cook. Naomi then gives some details on how Snake and Liquid aren't fully genetically identical. There's a way to treat Raiden involves Dr. Madnar. Wait, Dr. Madnar? That Dr. Madnar? Huh. Go figure. So Naomi pretty much seduces Otacon into sleeping with her, which means she's doomed. Every woman who's romantically associated with Otacon has to die. So begins Act 3. Snake makes his way in disguise through some face camo, and it goes without saying this is probably the dumbest act in the entire game. So you start off with this scene where Snake refuses to go along with Meryl and she insults him.
Snake.
Ouch. So the basic outline of this act is that you have to tail this one guy to where Big Mama is. Yeah, thanks for letting me know where you are by whistling. There's parts where you have to save him because he was a dumbass. Then you keep falling and he changes into a... Wait a minute, you had that? And you didn't use it right away? What's wrong with you? Oh, whatever. I'm almost there. Come on, just a little more. Ow! You've got to be kidding! I gotta go all the way back? Ugh, fine, whatever, I'll just skip ahead. So Snake makes his way inside and finds Big Mama, who is actually Eva from MGS3, and Snake's surrogate mother. Here's where the game makes its big reveal. The Patriots are actually your support team from MGS3. This comes off as extremely hard to swallow. That James Bond lover, he's the main overarching villain of the series? Yeah, hard to buy, but that's how it is. The Patriots were founded by Big Boss, Eva, Paramedic, Sigint, Zero, and Ocelot, but Big Boss came to resent playing the role of puppet, and after the Lens Enfant Terrible project, he broke away to oppose Zero's Patriots, starting his own mercenaries, but Solid Snake stopped him both times. Well, technically one time now, I suppose. After Big Boss was defeated, Zero kept Big Boss in a vegetative state, and unwilling to pass on the Patriots to a new generation, established AIs to take over after he was gone. Ocelot and Eva had Grey Fox kill Dr. Clark, who was Paramedic, and Ocelot tortured Sagan to death. Following this information, you're treated to another on-the-rails motorcycle chase. While I understand this is meant as a callback to MGS3, we just went through a rare shooter at the end of the second act, so this really comes off as pretentious than anything else. After that comes the boss fight with Raging Raven. Her emotion comes from the Fury, her weapons are explosives derived from Fat Man, and her animal comes from Vulcan Raven. Raging Raven basically flies around, and really this is probably my least favorite boss fight in the game. The spaces are constricted, she's hard to hit, and takes too long to get a read on her, and once again, not much to say about the beauty part, and Drebin calling you to give you another solid story, yada yada yada. Snake and Eva meet up with Liquid, who has managed to take Big Boss's body, which gives him full control of the SOP system, which he proceeds to demonstrate in the silliest of ways. Ed and Jonathan are taken out of action, and I guess this scene is supposed to make me care about them, but it really doesn't work for me. Johnny saves Meryl, and this is where we see this romance bloom. I hesitate to call it romance because, well, any scene with them together is honestly embarrassing. Liquid throws Big Boss's corpse into the fire, and Snake... Jeez, Kojima really lays it on. Eva gives her son her final words.
The light is put out. The shadow cannot be erased. So long as there is light, there is shadow. To return everything to normal, the light must be extinguished. And when that happens, you will be too.
With the day lost, Snake returns to the Nomad. They discover that Liquid is making his way to Shadow Moses to take Rex's stealth ray gun. Meilin contacts them, now the captain of the USS Missouri, and agrees to rendezvous with them at Shadow Moses. Following that, you get a bizarre dream sequence. By that I mean it's pretty obviously a nostalgia-grabbing method. Here you get a perfect reveal of Shadow Moses in all its high-definition glory. It provides yet another feeling. Like Snake, Shadow Moses has gotten older and has decayed over time. Even the surveillance camera has fallen apart. This probably reflects Kojima's mood while making this game. He was getting older, and so too was Metal Gear, as it had just reached its 20th anniversary. If war is now routine, Metal Gear is routine to Kojima. Yet here we see Kojima trying to come to terms with how much time has passed since the release of MGS1 and MGS4. Hell, even this game's starting to feel retro. Almost 10 years have passed since MGS4 came out. Kojima even tries to play up the audience's and his own feelings on growing older.
Getting old isn't all that bad, you know.
Following this, Snake enters a boss fight with Crying Wolf. She takes her emotion from the Sorrow, her weapon from Fortune, and her animal from Sniper Wolf. Her boss fight is even the same snow feel as Sniper Wolf, and she takes a lot of the environment uses from the end. Crying Wolf is a nice little blend of Sniper Wolf in the end. She uses your smell against you, but in the end, it's not as long as the end or as straightforward as Sniper Wolf, but it's a very sharp improvement from Raging Raven. After that, Snake makes his way into Rex's hangar, where he'll come across Vamp and Naomi. The game then indulges in a boss fight with Vamp. Vamp isn't particularly hard. All you have to do is wear down his health and stick him with a syringe. Following this, the game indulges in a boss fight where Snake must take down the oncoming geckos while Raiden engages Vamp in one-on-one combat. I'd like to be watching Raiden fight Vamp, but it's almost impossible to do so. Following this, Raiden will finish Vamp. After this, Vamp is finally killed off. The game tries to paint this in a sad light, but let's recap everything Vamp has done. He killed SEAL Team 10 Alpha without remorse, stabbed and killed Emma, subjecting her to a slow and painful death, and even robs Otacon the chance for revenge at the end. Despite all this, he's given a quick and peaceful death. Sorry, I just... Ugh. Naomi's death is handled better, and utterly reminds you just how screwed Otacon is when it comes to love. With that out of the way, Snake takes control of Metal Gear Rex, and... this is just awesome. It makes no sense, but I don't care. The control is heavy, but perfect in every way. Following that, you must confront Metal Gear Ray and Liquid, who is piloting it.
Fates were born, and where yours ends, Snake.
This is the ultimate example of fan service, but it's fan service done right. Watching Metal Gear Rex perform some wrestler-like moves on Ray has always been a highlight. Every game has a traditional Metal Gear fight, but this time around you're piloting another Metal Gear. It really highlights how far this series has come in terms of gameplay. After you beat Metal Gear Ray, Ocelot will try to crush Snake with his mount Snakemore. There's nothing to say about this, so let's just move on. But Raiden will hold it at bay, even though getting Snake out of the way will suffice just as well. Don't know why he didn't do that. After that, Raiden is crushed to near death, and I swear he was supposed to be killed off for real here, but they changed their minds at virtually the last minute. With that, all characters are assembled, and it's time to bring the fight to Liquid. Snake, Meryl, and Johnny are separated once they launch onto the ship. Outer Haven is very similar to Arsenal Gear with its cold, gray feel. The frogs even actually do resemble the Tengu. It doesn't last long as the game forces you into the final B&B Corp boss fight, Screaming Mantis. Screaming Mantis' emotion is a mix of the fear and the pain. She uses knives like Vamp, and her animal comes from Psycho Mantis, obviously. Her boss fight involves Meryl being controlled again because the last boss fight had Meryl being controlled, so why not? Psycho Mantis also makes a surprise return. I suspect it's just because he was a fan favorite, but With that, the last of the B&B course is defeated, and Snake heads towards the corridor, and we get this embarrassing scene where Johnny proposes to Meryl in the middle of a battle. I've seen worse romances, but Meryl and Johnny's romance really is just sort of out of nowhere. Even David Hayter called it bullshit. Following this, Raiden shows off some new bullshit out of nowhere powers, such as the ability to shoot lightning. With that, Snake makes his way into the microwave corridor. It's truly a testament to Snake's will that he's able to run through it. It also serves as a nice, sad little bookend to the original Metal Gear where Snake had to run across an electrified floor. Otacon is able to upload Sonny's virus Fox Alive, which stops the Patriots and wipes them out while leaving society intact. Naomi explains this in her final message.
Snake, hear me. Our country is an innocent child once more. A new dawn is rising. Now, she can build a new destiny for herself.
With nothing left, Liquid Ocelot challenges Snake to a final duel. The two have nothing left but to prove once and for all who is the best, and I really like this fight. The controls are unique, and they feel very natural for a final battle between these two. The boss even goes through 3 phases depending on what game they're homaging. With cinematic punches and CQC moments, the moments when Snake and Ocelot punch each other at the same time is truly something to behold. I just love the part when they have nothing left and stagger towards each other for the final blow. With that, Ocelot goes down and he passes away.
I am Liquid's doppelganger, and you are his. Just like your father. You're pretty good.
You're pretty good. Pretty good.
Well, there's nothing left but the epilogue. Meryl and Johnny are married, which I suppose makes for a happy ending, but what does he see in her? I mean, their first meeting was her stealing his clothes and generally treating him like dirt, which was due to her own anger issues, but oh, whatever. Raiden reconnaissances with Rose and his son, her marriage to Campbell being a sham to protect them from the Patriots, and Snake sadly kills himself due to the mutant fox dye soon to activate. With that, Otacon and Sonny look out to the sunset as we end Metal Gear Solid 4. What an emotional game. Metal Gear Solid 4, how to sum it all up? It had its ups and downs, but overall, Metal Gear Solid 4 is a very solid game. It has its stupid moments such as all of Act 3, but... oh, hang on. We forgot something, as I'll let the credits show you. Big Boss is in fact alive and well. I have to wonder what he is planning on doing if Snake had actually killed himself. Big Boss explains that Eva and Naomi used pieces of liquid and solids as bodies to bring him back to life. Once the Patriots system went offline, Big Boss was able to locate Zero's vegetative body. Ocelot was pretending to be Liquid, hence why he has his own voice in this game, but the original intention was clearly for Liquid to be controlling him, hence why Cam Clark voices Liquid Ocelot in MGS2, while in MGS4 he's voiced by Patrick Zimmerman. Big Boss puts Zero out of his misery compassionately. Big Boss is being affected by the fox dye in Snake that killed Eva and Ocelot. Big Boss tells Snake that the new fox dye is uprooting the old and thus he won't cause an epidemic. I have one question. It killed Eva and Big Boss so soon after he came into contact with them, but why didn't Ocelot die within a few minutes after encountering Snake here? It just bugs me. Big Boss tells Snake to live out his remaining days not as a soldier, but as a man. With one final salute, the legendary soldier passes away at the grave of the woman he looked up to and admired for so many years.
This is good, isn't it?
With that, Metal Gear Solid 4 finally ends. It's a little long-winded, but for something that was supposed to bring finality to Metal Gear, it does the job well enough, I suppose. Kojima just wanted an end to Metal Gear, and with this, it seems as though he finally succeeded. One thing that this game is very guilty of is the way it tries to explain anything supernatural with nanomachines. I find that to be subjective. Part of the Metal Gear series' appeal was that it mixed Western technology with Eastern supernatural powers. You expect me to believe that Psycho Mantis was just using nanomachines, or Vamp running on water were all nanomachines, or even Fortune deflecting Ray's missiles were all nanomachines? Because even though her technology had been turned off, it's just a huge disappointing cop-out. It's a little hard to talk about the characters in this game because while MGS3 was very character-driven, MGS4 is very plot-driven in comparison. Everyone more or less gets their happy ending. So with the sense of finality in this game, let's talk about everyone's ending. Otacon, Meryl, and Raiden find redemption in life. Otacon has a daughter in Sunny, so he finally has a woman to love without tragedy. Sunny herself basically represents the future that Snake, Raiden, and Otacon are fighting to protect. Not sure how making eggs qualifies as character development, but it is through her that the world is set free from the Patriots. Meryl reconciles with her father and marries Johnny. There's really nothing good I can say about that, so let's just move on. And Raiden reconciles with his own family. Ocelot, Eva, Naomi, and Big Boss find redemption in death. Ocelot and Eva help to undo the Patriots that they helped create at the cost of their own lives. Naomi and Big Boss accept their deaths with dignity and leave things to the new generation. Snake, however, he's caught in between life and death. Snake is tired and worn out, and that probably reflects Kojima's state of mind while making this game. Compare Snake's message at the end of MGS2 to how apathetic he is in MGS4. It makes sense, though. Snake is old, he's dying, so he's probably not feeling very good. But now he has a chance to live, a chance to be a man, not a soldier. It gives him a sense of peace, and of all the Snakes, he has been given freedom. The saga of Metal Gear is essentially about two people, Big Boss and Solid Snake. While Big Boss took a path of war seeking to create an asylum for soldiers, he misinterpreted the boss's will. While Zero represented order, Big Boss represented chaos. While much of Big Boss's own development will be covered in future games and Portable Ops, which I didn't review, partly because it's not part of the Hideo Kojima saga, and because I don't have the means to record a PSP game as of this moment. But it's really nothing you have to see. MGS3 provides enough information. Snake succeeded where his father failed. He didn't stray from his path. In the end, it was he who inherited the boss's will, a character who he had never even met. The son surpassed the father.
Well, that was quite an adventure. For all its flaws, the game did what it set out to do. Give a conclusion to Metal Gear. And honestly, after this, I felt like I had my closure with the series. But it wasn't to end there. Solid Snake's story may be over, but Naked Snake's story still had some gaps to fill. Join me next time, we'll be looking at Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. Thanks for watching, and take care.